Thank you so much. Usually, post-lunch sessions are a little bit boring, but we have a very interesting panel discussion and a very decent lineup of speakers representing very renowned organizations. So we'll try to make it more interesting and more interactive. So, given the paucity of time, probably we won't be able to take questions from the audience post-discussion, but certainly we can take questions of the dais, but we'll try to make this interaction more meaningful, more interactive, and you'll certainly have some possible key takeaways post the discussion, because topic is very apt, very unique, and very relevant to the theme of today's conference, that is making Rajasthan the renewable energy capital of the world. The topic which I have been given to moderate the session is transitioning from conventional to renewable, role of developers, PSUs, and green financial institutions. I can see all these stalwarts from their organizations are sitting here. What I feel, in order to transition from conventional to renewable to net zero, it is necessary for the entire RE ecosystem, be it developers, be it PSUs or the green financing institutions. They need to relook at their strategies, bringing innovation in their workflows, processes, utilizing a combination of mixed energy, solar, wind, and other sources of green energy generation. So to begin with, I'll first go to Mr. Shaili Abraham, who is head of the Renewable Energy Bharat Petroleum Corporation, one of the leading PSUs in the country. Sir, why renewables are so important for BPCL and an organization who's into gas, energy, and mixed energy over the years, and how has been your journey of transition to a major clean and green energy player in India? Over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I thank the organizers for inviting me for this program. Let me address the whole issue from oil and gas company's perspective, not just from the BPCL side, from an oil and gas company's perspective. From an energy transition point of view, if you look at it, today the world consumes something like 100 to 101 million barrels per day of oil. And for past many years, we have been hearing that the oil demand is going to peak soon, and very soon we can see the negative growth as far as the oil is concerned. I remember 10 years back also, they have mentioned that by 2020, the oil demand will peak and then it will start moving down. But then, as we know, it didn't happen. Today, the analysts are saying that the decades of 2020, that is this decade, probably it will plateau. And by the end of the decade, we can see some downward trend of the oil demand. But then again, when you look at these reports, actually there are two different sets of graphs you can see. One is for the developed nations and other is for the developing nations. For developed nations like the Western Europe, the Japan, some of these countries, probably this peaking will happen sooner than some other countries, and you can see the downward trend, which is expected probably in this decade itself. But whereas countries like, developing countries like India, the countries in the Africa, it is still climbing, and the report suggests that it can probably happen in the second half of the next decade. Still then there is going to be, oil demand will continue to rise. That is the one indication as far as the energy transition is concerned. Now, notwithstanding what this analyst says, we all realize, we all know that transition is actually happening. It is happening right in front of us. We can see that I come from Mumbai. I can say that, 2-3 years back, I couldn't find any EV buses in the streets in South Mumbai. Today, I'm not able to see a single diesel-driven bus in South Mumbai. Almost all buses have been converted either to CNG or to EV. Mumbai has around 600 EV buses today. They say they are targeting something like 10,000 EV buses by 26. I don't know whether we have that kind of manufacturing capacity, but the signals are very clear. A couple of weeks back, there was India Energy Week in Bangalore. There were people who were saying that within next 3 years, all of India's 2 and 3 wheelers are going to be EV. Now, whether it will happen in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, we don't know. Probably we'll have to wait and see it. But one thing we know for sure that it is happening. The only question is when. I mean, generally what is saying that by 2040, at least 90+% of the new 2 and 3 wheelers are going to be EV. Around 80% of all the buses are going to be EV. And close to 60% of all the passenger vehicles are going to be EV. Now, the question is, why this transition is happening, and probably happening at much faster pace than we all had imagined. It is happening because, you know, there is so much of huge investment happening around the world in the area of energy transition. Last year, world spent $1.1 trillion on energy transition, $1,100 billion on energy transition. 10 years back, the percentage of investment in the energy transition was probably a very small percentage of the investment in the fossil fuel. But today it is on par, almost at the same level it is happening. And going forward, we can see that probably the investment is going to be more in energy transition than in fossil fuels. Now, BPCL as a company is fully aware of it, and we are ready to embrace this transition. So to de-risk our the expected drop in the demand for the conventional products which we are handling, we see renewable energy as a potential as an alternate energy sources. And so in that context, it is so very important for companies like BPCL. That is the question which you are asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Now taking what you said to another panelist, Dr. R.K. Singh from SIDBI. Mr. Abraham talked about the 2040 goals of India. Now I'll take it to 2070 goals of India, the ambitious goal that India has taken to become a net zero economy by 2070. So where do you see a role for SIDBI, and what are some of the initiatives which you would like to highlight here, which are accelerating the progress of green finance in India? Over to you.
Thank you. So thanks to Mr. Abraham, he could lay that off so well that the demand exists, the supply, and more so the fund supply needs to be attuned. So for example, while I would come to EV later, SIDBI as a DFI, Development Financial Institution, always picks up the agendas which are aligned to the country's growth plans. And since we have adopted carbon neutrality as a prioritized agenda, SIDBI has set up a green vertical, purely focused on greening the enterprise ecosystem, right from micro to medium enterprises. And in this, we play multifaceted roles. So first is laying the foundation. So we start from micro level. We operate Mission Swawalamban, which is inducing entrepreneurship culture. And there we have started embedding the green agenda into it. One example I will give relevant to Rajasthan only, where we are working with Barefoot College, Tilonia, to set up 50 solarpreneurs. We call it entrepreneurs as solarpreneurs. And basically to light 7 to 10 villages who don't have light with solar. Second initiative we are doing in Rajasthan, which is woven around Project GRIT. GRIT is Green Inclusivity Program, where we adopt micro clusters and bring ESCOs or RESCOs into the clusters, and go through a cycle of doing walk-through energy audits, detailed energy audits, and induce entrepreneurs to go for energy or renewable energy investments. This we have started in Rajasthan in Kota. On the national level, we are planning to intervene in 50 clusters. Before Kota, we have picked up Moradabad in UP to start with. So the plan is to work on that. So this is the cluster-centric strategy on non-financial side. Coming to how do you induce people going for investment? So SIDBI has been operating risk-sharing facility, which acts as basically a risk mitigant. Because on the demand side, MSME or entrepreneurs are not convinced that if I invest, whether I would get the returns or the investment which I am doing is worthwhile. So realizing that, as also from the supply side, when the banker is not able to understand that is there a bankability out here, he will not support that. So there are technical aspects which need to be taken care. Then there is a high cost of funds at the level of, say, institutions like NBFCs, smaller institutions, SFBs and all, who want to lend to emerging segments, but they have high cost of funds, so ultimately landed cost goes up. So how do you attend that? So we operate risk sharing facility for last 7 years, where any proposal which comes in energy efficiency or renewable energy, we have a team of technical experts which filter it, and then we provide guarantee coverage for the loans. Taking that experience of 7 years, now we have started weaving with support of multilaterals, risk-sharing facility around EV, around CBG, around solid waste management. So these are emerging areas where SIDBI is weaving the risk-sharing facility. Would also bring on board the line of credit which will channelize to MSMEs. And third is we'll be doing a lot of capacity building program, like already for EV, before even launching it, SIDBI has already taken few projects on its own, we have discussed with 550 stakeholders pan-India, and have trained 50 bankers, including SIDBI people, to just have a feel of this emerging segment, which offers a huge market. Because if we are talking about 2030 at the rate 30, EV 30 at 30, we are saying by 2030, we should have 30% vehicles which are EV powered. So we are focused there. Now coming to the financing side, SIDBI as a DFI, we believe that we should do first ourselves, and then we would mainstream through our partner banks. Like in risk sharing facility for energy efficiency, we have onboarded 14 bankers and lenders. Similarly, what we are doing is we have just started Mission 1000 solar rooftop across the country. 1000 solar rooftop, 1,000 crore earmarked by SIDBI. And last few months only at pan-India basis, we are nearing around 400 plus proposals supported by SIDBI, because we train 40% of SIDBI officers in greening and green appraisal and green funding. We have host of schemes, but particularly if I concentrate on solar powering and solar rooftop, if proposals are coming in a cluster, if more than 20 units come up, 20-25 units in a cluster, we provide finer rate of interest, or rate of interest itself is 7 to 10%. And third is for SIDBI customers pan-India, we have waived off our upfront fee, processing fee which we charge. Second is our partner institutions, which are OEMs and which enable implementation of solar projects. We are waiving off to some extent our processing fee. So what we are trying to basically do is weave the ecosystem in a manner that it attends to the supply and demand side. So I will cut it short here.
Thank you. And now I'll move to the next panelist, Mr. Shahi, Executive Director, PFC. Sir, while we are discussing the topic transition from conventional to renewable, so I would like to understand from based on your experience, how does PFC help access affordable green finance to MSMEs on the country's resolve on being a carbon neutral nation? Over to you.
Sir, we are all aware that India has an ambitious target. Some is to be met by 2030, and ultimately by 2070 it has to be net zero. This ambitious target can be achieved through collaboration between domestic, private, state-owned and foreign players. Out of the total fund requirement, around 70 to 80% is in the energy sector, and major of which is for the power sector. PFC is already playing a role in the energy transition effort. PFC has supported renewable energy to the tune of around 20 gigawatts, and we are already in the process of sanctioning around 7 gigawatt more of renewable energy. So PFC has several capabilities to support the energy transition from conventional to non-conventional. PFC has wider exposure of understanding of new energy technologies and strong expertise in power sector. PFC has increased focus on green funding, which are sustainable and environmentally benign. The company endeavors to incorporate social and environmental aspect in the appraisal of the project so that to meet the activities in general. Nodal agencies for various government schemes like Integrated Power Development Scheme. Presently, RDSS is also being undertaken by PFC. Strong resource mobilization capabilities. PFC is the largest NBFC with a loan book of around 7.5 lakh crores. It has strong resource mobilization capabilities in both domestic as well as foreign markets. Established green bond framework aligned with internationally recognized standards and adhering to green bond principles. So we are actually into the financing of the green energies, and a separate unit has been incorporated in the organization to take care of this green funding.
While we are discussing about green energy transition, so here comes the role of our next panelist. He represents the largest oil and gas PSU of the country, Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Mr. E. Parthiban, you are Chief Manager of Alternate Energy and Sustainable Development, IOCL in Rajasthan. So I would like to ask you, what has been the experience of Indian Oil in setting up RE projects in the state of Rajasthan, and what are some of your future plans in context of green energy transition? Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Arpit Gupta. I am glad to meet all of you here in this Renewable Energy Conclave. Indian Oil started its journey in renewable energy in 2009, and first solar plant of 5 megawatt installed in Rajasthan, Jaipur district. And frequently during that execution, we got the enough state authority support for the land allocation. Through that, we have completed the project in the stipulated time. So with this experience, we are gone into the wind capacity also. So in 2016 and 17, we are installed 3 wind projects in Rajasthan, one in 23.1 megawatt capacity of Suzlon developers wind power plant in Kaladungar district, Kaladungar, and 24.0 megawatt Devigot plant in Jodhpur district, all are in Jasmal, total around 47.3 megawatts, and 25 megawatt to 25.2 megawatt in Bhopalgarh plant. So with this, these projects are executed under the REC mechanism. So these wind power plants executed in the wind policy of 2012. So during the execution, we have got the enormous support from the authorities. So this project executed in REC, that REC renewable energy certificates can be retained in our refineries itself. So and we are requesting the Rajasthan state to give the proactive action to sort out the any legal issues and to mitigate the all the issues. So to protect the investment already made in this renewable energy project. So this can be the booster to the public entities as well as the private players to come into this rich renewable energy state. So I think the enormous potential is available in the Rajasthan state. Around I think 140 gigawatt of solar with the solar irradiation of 2000 kilowatt per hour megawatt, and also in the wind also in the at the 120 meter above the ground level. I think it's 120 gigawatt capacity potential is available in the Rajasthan state. So if the Rajasthan state give the enormous support to all the players, then everyone will come to Rajasthan state and invest in this state. When come to our future project, already we have the agreement with the NTPC to meet our future power project, future power demand of all our refineries up to for the tune of 650 megawatt, meeting through the round the clock renewable energies. So in the future also we are keen to invest in many of the RE projects to mitigate carbon emission and to bring down our scope 1 or scope 2 emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving next to our panelist, Mr. Surendra Bhushan Joshi, Project Director, Nuclear Power Corporation of India. Sir, how can nuclear power fill major energy gaps in the coming years in India? And adding to it, I would also like to know from you, in your view, what is the future of power and power of the future through nuclear? Over to you.
Thank you, Arpit. First thing I'll address is that role of nuclear power in, I'll not say renewable, I'll say green energy now. Because energy from a nuclear plant is green. So right now we have a small capacity of 6.8 gigawatt, but in next 5 years, up to 27 rather, we are be adding more 7 gigawatt more to it, and by 32 another 8.7 gigawatt are on the cards. And then these things will come up. They are multi-stage programs. In nuclear, we also have a concern about our self-sufficiency also. So those things are addressed. Now what you said that future of power and power of future, actually earlier I had an impression that there will be some address sort of thing. So for that I had prepared a write-up, but that is pretty long for this session, but even then I'll cover in brief. That covered future of power means, see, few things are for sure. Like Mr. Shelly Abraham were having a doubt now that this goalpost is getting shifted, but ultimate thing is we always plan in an optimistic way. As a project head, if I have got 5 streams who are working for my project completion, one will be lagging one will be a bit leading one. Whom shall I set as a target? Who is the most advanced? Not the worst one. Everybody should work as per this. So this happens. So all the targets in our engineering sector, energy sector, they are optimistic ones. Now I come back to the question of future of power. First I will take the future of power. So as I see, in gist of my write-up, it was that renewable energy, which earlier we considered as a junior partner. Even me, I was of that thought, कि यार ये तो ठीक है, आएगा धीरे धीरे. But now they, in last few years, they have changed the scene. Now they are not the in the side role. They are the main role. Now, what power sector should do now? Actually, if you see the energy consumption of our country, so means it's very pitiful actually. We consume some 1255 kilowatt per person per year, while world average is 6,000, and these are very, means if you want to reach, it is 3 times of ours. Ours is 12, they are 3600, and if we want to go at the world average, we have to increase our consumption means generation also, because we cannot consume if it is not produced. So we have to quadruplet our production, and it is not a joke actually. सुनने में तो बहुत सिंपल है, 4 गुना क्या, मैं 5 गुना भी बोल सकता है, I can say 5 times करने का है, but those things are real challenges. And as far as phasing out of oil and all, which we sometimes talk, it is really जो 70 का target when I heard on in this panel we are 70 and all, that may be feasible, but near future fossil fuel in spite of they are breathing out some 1 kg of carbon dioxide per unit of power generated, still then we have to keep them in the stride. They cannot be written off. So future of power is we will transit from fossil based economy बोल सकते हैं. Let power be the economy, because we are all here for power discussion. So all economy is driven by that. If we are providing green power, it will become a green economy. And so if we want to, in the near future we cannot do. And in near future, what seems to me very viable is that the resonance of RE, which we have seen. So now all the other power sectors should be in a supportive mode. At NPC, whenever we talk with other power mode like NTPC, or they are a big brother of us, but other modes are there, like renewable or hydel or anything. So we never say they are competitors. These all agencies are cooperators who has been given a mammoth task to meet our country's energy need. Forget, any of them can never do. We all have to cooperate. And now when we see that the growth which RE has, this potential which has shown, so we all shall work to milk that cow. Means like hurdle. Hurdle have got a, I'm not addressing that SHP. That is a very good option. Actually, if you talk to me as an engineer, RE generation, solar generation with SHP, that seems the quickest achievable method. But we already had all stations. Some NHPC person was supposed to be here, no? NHPC, sir.
No, I think they are in the next panel.
Acha. So, see, they have, today we have some 51 gigawatt of hydel capacity. That hydel capacity with some pumping supplement, without any additional environmental burden, those are established things. Only they need some pumping back scheme. To me, to everybody it may sound very uneconomical, but when solar prices are going so down, it will make it economical. It will bring it the viability domain. So that will be the another quick way when we can, I am talking of the near future of the power. Right? So then these evolutions actually continue. Like one more thing is very popular in Rajasthan and everywhere it should be rather. That Kusum Yojana for pumping, or rooftop ACs, like the solar ACs. So those things has to be done, but developers has to think very innovatively in that. We have to categorize our RE uses as flux supported. Flux supported means which increases with flux, like air conditioning requirement, agricultural water. These we can term as flux supported requirements. Then there will be another requirements which are not, they're flux neutral, like food cooking, power generation at all. These are flux neutral. Flux is there or not, you need them. So for that you need some storage arrangement, so that when flux is there you generate and you preserve. Then there are flux suppressed requirements like heating of water. A person once, when I was 10, 20 years back, a person came to sell me a scheme of solar heating for swimming pool. I asked, what is the purpose? So this thought has to be applied while evolving or conceptualizing the things. Yesterday I was reading a newspaper that last year 10 lakh units of inverter ACs were sold in the country. So I read that news in my language. 1500 megawatt of solar capacity is lost, because those inverter ACs with a very minimal thing can be given a DC plug-in point and they can be further be used by the solar panels. Ultimately it will help the load of the grid. So means developers and innovators, they have to think in a way. For my own purpose, in nuclear power plant, I'll tell you, we have many challenges which we have to, technological things which have to resolve. We have to, our reactors operate on a very fixed power. Then you see the demand of the time, you need have to, that For thermal plants, they have brought in some flexibility regulation.
Right.
And when I saw that regulation, as an engineer, I thought, what a horrible thing. The thermal plants will have a tough time in adhering to that. Technical things are not like that. You wrote some down and happened. So there are many things. So future of power will keep on evolve till it reaches an end. This is what I wanted to say in that.
Right.
And that end is fusion. That will not happen commercially viable in lifetime of all of us present. But ultimate target will be, ultimate settlement, that will be when we viably extract the fusion power. So when we say power of the future is fusion, but and I will end my talk by telling that power of future is the power of the past. Even when human beings invented fire, that was the only source of energy for us. Fusion energy, that was at sun, now to create at the earth. That will be the power of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. And now moving next to Mr. Rajesh Jain, Senior Energy Consultant, International Solar Alliances. Sir, you come with over 3 decades of experience in solar sector. So given the fact that India has made tremendous progress in powering the solar sector, could you please take us through the journey of solar and transition from conventional to renewable, briefly? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Arpit. And your question is such an interesting one that I can speak for hours together, but time is limited. I'll be very, very crisp. And one more thing I'll add from my side, that is the role of PSU, what we can do for that. So, as we all know that when India got the freedom, the first thing was given to the, first responsibility was given to the public sectors to build the entire infrastructure of the country, including roads, including shipbuilding, energy, all sectors were given to PSUs. And they very faithfully did it. Same thing happened to solar sector. So, the responsibility of creating the first solar cell of India was also given to a PSU, which was done way back in 1976, and in by 78 or 79, we could establish our first solar manufacturing line by a PSU. And perhaps many of you might not be knowing this fact, that like other forms of energy, nuclear energy and space research and minerals, this solar sector was also restricted for only public sector till 1991, till the announcement of so-called liberalization and globalization of our economy by Narasimha Rao government. So private sector came into this solar field after 1992 onwards. So between 1976 up to 1990s, early 90s, it was the responsibility of only Indian PSUs, which not only developed the technology of solar cells, solar modules, and they made the world-class solar cells and modules, which were comparable to anybody so-called best in the world. And we developed all those applications, whatever we see in the today's market in those 15, 17 years. Then perhaps not many of the audience or panelists might be knowing that the first major user, first commercial order was placed by ONGC, an oil company, for the solar, for solarization of their offshore oil rig equipments, which was a major import substitution and major leap of Indian public sector. Means Indian public sector not only were a producer, but the major user also. So, being a very costly technology, solar was never, during that last century, solar was not, bought by private users till 2000 or after that also. It was mainly used by government for various welfare schemes. Apart from government, PSUs were the main users, like Indian Oil and ONGC and many other PSUs. They use these solar systems for their various applications, solarization of filling stations and many such applications, solarization of protection of oil pipelines and other applications. So there were many innovative applications, so there were many users also. Now let us come to the point of launch of National Solar Mission. When we took it up in mission mode, MNRE not only set the tough target for us to achieve by 2020, the 20 gigawatt was to be achieved, which was later on made 100 gigawatt by the present government. So then that time also the responsibility was given to PSU by creating another PSU called Solar Energy Corporation, which was given the major responsibility of not only implementing the National Solar Mission but also scaling up in a big way and by deploying multi-megawatts of solar in a mission mode. So up to this point, SECI alone awarded 35 gigawatts of solar power plants and commissioned 12 gigawatts. So in the present achievement of 64 odd gigawatts, SECI has this much role, and TPC is owning more than 3 gigawatts, and major public sectors are not only managing these things but managing this responsibility, but they are owning up also, they are acting as a developer also. So in my opinion, if we want to further scale it up, PSU has got another role as a, demand aggregators. They are having the role of power developers also, and they can contribute in, they have been contributing, and they have further contributed, they have to further contribute in policy advocacy, in capacity building, and in project management consultancy. So this way, PSU again has a major role to scale it up further till we achieve our final goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts in a very crisp and short manner. Moving next, Mr. I.R. Venkatraman, Senior Vice President, Business Development, Ayana Renewable Power Private Limited. Sir, what are the challenges and opportunities do you see for the transition towards a renewable and sustainable energy system in India? And what are some of the innovations that Ayana can bring in to unlock the potential of renewable energy ecosystem? Over to you.
Hello. Thanks, Arpit. And first I would like to thank ET Renewable and RRECL for calling us and giving this opportunity to share. What I'll do, I'll briefly put my buckets into 3 buckets. One is the paramount is grid security. So the market will move what the grid security requires. I'll elaborate this further. Second is the market drivers, what the market wants. And third is the transmission backbone. So these are the 3 key areas which will help in transitioning the journey of renewables. So when I say grid security, we have seen that plain vanilla wind solar around 25% PLF, 38% PLF is not sufficing the requirement of the country. And there has been huge hue and cry from the DISCOM side because of the DSM variations. One example I can quote in recent meetings, Karnataka had 50% DSM variations. So the market is now going towards a RTC kind of a power. So if you are able to give a RTC power, then you will be in the race, otherwise not. For example, Ayana has developed a strategy or model where I can give you 85% PLF in renewable, which is very high. You have heard it right, 85% on an annual basis. And 50% on a time block basis, I can give you firm power of renewable energy. That we have developed, and we are working for that. And so the market will go towards RTC. Second, when I'm saying that this will help the grid to have firm power, more resilient grid, and there are other markets also which will drive like ancillary markets, and maybe going forward there will be energy arbitrage and other things with coming in. Now, the second drivers will be from where the demand is coming. So as sir rightly said, SECI is one of the prominent in the central side. It brings up tenders. Now you see the pattern is changing. From plain vanilla, it is more coming towards, load following, RTC kind of tender, peak power tenders. Even states are coming up with peak power tenders. Maharashtra has recently come, and there are other states are following. Few states have even connected with us how to put that. So a recent tender of Maharashtra wherein they want only peak power and rest you can pump it at some rate. So plus the net zero targets of a lot of companies are coming. So there is a huge scope of CNI requirement which comes to us, and they say we want 100% renewable. Now why this is coming, as a lot of panelists have said, they want to do a green. So the products that they are selling in international market, the international buyers are demanding that your product should be 100% green. When they are saying this, I have to give them 100% green power. But I will not lie, I cannot give 100% renewable power, but yes, with the formula that we have designed, 85% PLF I am giving, and I am going beyond that. For the 15% rest of the power, I am giving them other solutions like buying carbon credits, RECs, so that 15% is also given. Now you see the CNI market, around 618 gigawatt hour is the requirement of energy. Only 44 gigawatt hour is supplied by CNI people, and that too not full green. Because there are people who are supplying green energy in a volume of some, let's say, wind solar combination, which gives around 50 to 66% of PLF. So that's not required for them. So they are asking for more. Now here comes the role of storage. Without a storage, I am not able to devise an RTC power. So thanks to, I think so, Mr. Rambabu emphasized, we have a very good association with Greenco. Along with them, we are giving them solutions. We have around 1000 megawatt of storage tied up with them. So we are able to give 85% of PLF in that form. Now, you see there are other policy drivers also that this present government in central is driving a lot of policy. For example, green open access has come, wherein you can give up till 100 megawatts. So this is driving the market. Then there is net zero bill that is pending in front of the parliament. So every district will have a target, every city will have a target, every state will have a target. So there's a huge requirement of renewable energy in that. Now, they have also incentivized, by bringing LPS rules and others, so generators can be incentivized. Now, to add to this, to be very brief, for a developer to get into this transaction, financing and is very key for us. So we would be looking for different ways of financing. I'll just tell you one problem, what is happening when I'm giving a solution of RTC, wind and solar belongs to me, but storage belongs to someone else. So the financing, when he comes, he keeps on looking at this middle part is of someone else, how should I finance, how to take the risk. So there's an inherent risk in this kind of models also, though the financing also need to evolve a little bit. We are getting a lot of foreign funding, though there are a lot of ESG funds which we need to tap up. Maybe some green bonds or green financing, or maybe dollar denominated green financing can also be an option. So that is very well required if we have to be successful in this country. So this brief I can end if you get into the questions.
Thank you. We are almost at the last leg of the discussion. 2 minutes are left, so I'll give this chance to Mr. Shaili Abraham to summarize what we have discussed and also talk about how will renewables help developers, PSUs, green financing institutions in achieving the net zero objectives. Over to you.
See, renewables will help us to decarbonize mainly 2 areas of our operations. One is the power generation and the hydrogen production. As a oil refining company, we consume large quantity of power in our refineries. Part of the power is generated captively in-house, and the balance is being imported from the grid. So what we plan to do is, and the power when it is produced, whether it is in-house or outside, it generates a significant quantity of carbon dioxide, like it was mentioned. So what we plan to do is to replace this power with the renewable power to achieve our net zero objective. We will start with the power which is being imported from the grid, that we will replace with the RTC power going forward in a phased manner. It cannot be done at a stretch. We will have to plan it in a phased manner. We will replace this power with RTC power. And going forward, we will start reducing our captive generation and increase our intake of the renewable power. We have clearly made a roadmap for the next few years for doing that. The second activity is the hydrogen production. We produce significant quantity of grey hydrogen today through a process called steam methane reforming. For our process requirement, it is required for now desulfurization unit for reducing the sulfur content in petrol and diesel. Now, hydrogen generation also emits significant quantity of carbon dioxide. In fact, 9 to 10 kg of carbon dioxide per kg of hydrogen we emit when we are producing hydrogen. So here again, what we plan to do is to convert this grey hydrogen into green hydrogen, which is produced through electrolysis of water using the renewable power. These two itself will constitute approximately 45 to 50% of the entire carbon dioxide emission from a refinery. The balance we will have to look at, probably looking from the bio-CNG, carbon capture, then the carbon offsets and the RECs and other things like that. So renewable actually plays an extremely crucial role in a process plan in the net zero objective. To achieve net zero objective, you need renewable energies in any process plant. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Jain and Mr. Venkatraman both have to say
I
something.
just
30
wanted
seconds
to-
each.
I just want to make two comments. Number one, when people say a lot of things about electric vehicles and there is so much noise and so much encouragement about electric vehicles, in my opinion, they are not contributed, they are not contributing anything towards for carbon footprint reduction till the time they are operated on conventional grid energy, which is generated through fossil fuels, number one. And number two, what I foresee is they are going to be like CFL lamps, they are also likely to be phased out very soon till the time, till we get green hydrogen in place. So these are the two comments I wanted to make.
Thank you. Mr. Venkatraman, 30 seconds.
Just want to add, ki, when we are speaking, so we missed one fact very important in Indian energy transition is we are at 444. When I say 444, we are the fourth largest renewable installed capacity, fourth largest wind capacity, fourth largest solar capacity. So this is a proud moment for us, and we will grow more than this, and maybe third, 2 and 1 someday. So this is very important. And one point I missed it, what Mr. Abraham is saying, is when the hydrogen demand will come, this is at nascent stage. So hydrogen to be green, it requires 100% renewable energy. So presently you see the problem with DISCOMs is they cannot give 100% green energy because they have an RP obligation of 10, 15, 20%. So the only solution that is available is through a CNI kind of a mode where I can give them 100% RTC power with 85% PLF, and that's where a private developer can play a very key role in the energy transaction. That's the limited point.
Thank you. Mr. Shahi, last
Yeah.
30 seconds.
PFC is open for financing the RE projects and associated anything related to green. And we have a deep pocket, we can finance up to 2,000 crore for a single project, and more than that also, if on case-to-case basis. And we can fund up to 80% of the project life and around up to 80-20 D ratio, depending upon the project after doing the detailed appraisal. And we are providing a concessional rate up to 170 basis point lower than the conventional. So we are open for financing of the projects in RE sector and any other sector also, which is related to the net zero. Thank you.
Last comment by Dr. Singh.
Yeah, so SIDBI believes that financing the green will only happen if we green the financing ecosystem itself. So embedding ESG is very important. SIDBI as an accredited agency of GCF Green Climate Fund is poised to raise capital through GCF as also through multilaterals. Our niche is we have to create in terms of assets on renewable energy which are funded by us should be like Ranthambore Fort, it should be impregnable, and it should be as inclusive as Jaisalmer Fort, which brings everybody together bottom up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. With this, I conclude the panel discussion, transition from conventional to renewable, role of developers, PSUs and green financial institution. Thank you, all the panelists.